Right, so UFC 265 went down on Saturday night. It is now Monday afternoon, so I've had some time to watch. I've had some time to process. I've had some time to think. So I thought to myself, why not sit down and share some of the thoughts that I've come up with over the last couple of days. Before I do, my name is Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Where should I start? All right, look, man. Over the last few months, I've been quite consistent in terms of making content for YouTube and just sharing my thoughts and opinions about the world of MMA and every now and again boxing. And recently, I've kind of fallen off and I've been less consistent. In fact, I haven't made a single video about UFC 265 until now, right? And I suppose it's a nice little metaphor uh, for me and the apathy I had towards the event, simply because of how I felt about this whole interim heavyweight title situation. And I'm not going to rehash it and go into it again because I'm pretty sure most people that follow the sport have the same opinion about the validity of this interim title as me. And also, I can't really blame the fact that I wasn't looking forward to the event um, for me not making any videos about the event, right? Because if I'm not excited about something, then I should sit down and talk about it. But sometimes a lack of motivation crosses paths with laziness, and what you get is procrastination, you get deliberation, and you just end up with a lack of productivity. But let's not focus on the negatives. Let's focus on the positives. We're here now. We're here now to talk about UFC 265. So what are my takeaways from this event? So obviously, let's start at the main event. Ciryl Gane against Derrick Lewis. Now, going into this fight, I gave Derrick Lewis little to no chance in terms of being able to beat Ciryl Gane, because although Derrick Lewis has this big, massive knockout power and he's shown it time and time again, and actually not just the power, he's actually even, it's not just that he's got power, but he's got the timing and accuracy to land the power shot and hurt opponents, right? So we've seen him do that against Curtis Blades, we saw him do it against Volkov. So, you know, I wouldn't just like to say Derrick Lewis is good takedown defense and power, because he knows how to time his shots to land them to maximum effect, right? I just felt like Ciryl Gane was just the completely wrong opponent for that type of a fighter, because Derrick Lewis is just too flat-footed and he can't close the distance in the manner in which he would have had to be able to land with any success on Ciryl Gane. And because Ciryl Gane is so mobile, and because he's so light on his feet, and because Derrick Lewis was so flat-footed and slow in comparison to Ciryl Gane, I just felt like it was going to be an easy night's work for Ciryl Gane. I didn't kind of envision a scenario where Ciryl Gane would get the finish, because I just felt like Ciryl Gane would just be content with kind of just peppering him with shots for 5 rounds and just winning each round decisively, because I felt like he would kind of take an approach of low risk and high reward. Obviously, in the 3rd round, he saw that he hurt Derrick Lewis, and what I liked is the way that he showed that killer instinct to get that finish. So that was something that kind of surprised me a little bit about Ciryl Gane. Not that I haven't seen him finish opponents in the past. I just felt like with everything that was riding on this fight, and the fact that we've seen Derrick Lewis be dangerous in those kind of scrambles, etc., that he might not kind of take that risk. But because I feel like he just, in his instinct, he kind of just knew that, you know what, Derrick Lewis is actually genuinely hurt here and he's here for the taking, and he took that opportunity. The only kind of, one thing that kind of was in my head leading into this fight, this reminded me a little bit of Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder, where they were talking about, oh, one's the technical boxer, one's the one's got the fundamental skills, and one's just a guy that has the power. And the difference in Wilder and Derrick Lewis is Wilder's got the explosiveness to be able to close the distance with speed and get into striking range, and Derrick Lewis does have that ability against some heavyweights, just not against Ciryl Gane, who is taller than Derrick Lewis and also is able to keep you at the end of his kicks, because he's not just a puncher. I did find it quite interesting that early on in the fight, Derrick Lewis was throwing those head kicks and stuff like that. But yeah, there was no shock, no surprise, and it's not like I've had this profound thought about the fight. I'm pretty sure Ciryl Gane was an overwhelming favourite, because a lot of people saw this fight going this way, as I did prior to the fight actually happening. It just played out how a lot of people anticipated it playing out. To be honest with you, I'm actually looking forward more to Ciryl Gane facing Francis Ngannou than I was looking forward to Derrick Lewis facing Francis Ngannou. Although I still would like to see Derrick Lewis against Ngannou, but Ciryl Gane, I think the backstory, and Dana White and was asked about this, and the fact that they've trained before, and Ngannou left the training camp that Ciryl Gane is currently at. There's a backstory there, and going back to my original point of kind of the apathy I had towards this event, I haven't watched a single episode of Embedded. I just didn't bother. I couldn't be asked. And one thing coming out of the fight that I'm pleasantly surprised about is the fact that I'm actually more drawn to Ciryl Gane outside of the octagon. Because I said to you, I said this previously, where Ciryl Gane, although he's been very proficient in his victories, although he's not really ever looked in trouble, although he's kind of done everything correct, he hasn't really given you those kind of visceral kind of moments of power and just brute force and strength that you like to see in your heavyweight fighters. And I didn't feel like he kind of had done enough to deserve a shot at the title. And we saw kind of good instinct to finish a fight on Saturday night. But aside from that, I liked how he kind of, because I did watch some of his post-fight press conference where he was, just little clips where he was asked about the fact that he came out to, what was the song, Still Tipping, is it? Where he came out to a song that that Derrick Lewis is known to come out to just troll the fans in the arena. One of which was my boy Redneck Truth Spouter, and I tell you what, he had some cracking seats because he sent me a picture. So big up yourself. Unlucky with a Derrick Lewis loss, because I know you was wanting him to win, but it is what it is, But yeah, what was I talking about? Yeah, so he came out to Still Tipping, and then now I don't know whether he's in charge of his own social media or whatever, but when he posted that picture of him kind of walking away with Derrick Lewis on the store with the hashtag "He's okay," that made me chuckle, innit? Because of Derrick Lewis and his Instagram page, and that's the hashtag that he likes to use when he posts most of his videos. So yeah, I feel like this event went as good as it possibly could have for Ciryl Gane. I don't feel like there's anything he could have done to make it go more perfect for him, in terms of coming out of that fight with no injuries or issues, you'd assume, because Derrick Lewis hardly landed on him, coming out the champion, and coming out with a moment like a TKO sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Coming out with a big finish. So yeah, I'd be interested to see when they book this kind of Gane against Ngannou match, and then how that affects the rest of the heavyweight division. Because obviously we still got Stipe Miocic, who's waiting in the wings, and he's not very happy at the moment. And we've still got John Jones, who's still bulking up and trying to work out a contract with the UFC. Quickly touching on the other two fights, the other two fights I cared about, to be quite frank. Jose Aldo against Pedro Munoz. I felt like Jose Aldo would win this. I didn't anticipate him to win it in the manner in which he did. I don't know, man. I don't want to get too carried away because I feel like Pedro Munoz is he's quite restricted in what he's able to do, which might have played into Jose Aldo being able to look so good. But the fact that Jose Aldo is still looking this good at this stage of his career, a weight class down from where he had the majority of his success in the sport, it's just testament to just how good he was. Because in my head, Jose Aldo is part of you know, I'm very rough when I say this, right? Because it feels like there's been kind of generations of MMA fighters, and I feel like Jose Aldo is from, like, I don't know, say 2 generations ago. Like, that was his era 2 generations ago, and he's still here, and he's still competing at the highest level. And you have to take your hats off to him, and you have to commend him. And you know what's actually just nice about this is the fact that Jose Aldo is getting his flowers while he's still here, as they say. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, what tends to happen is, especially in combat sport, is a fighter will peak and they'll be known as someone that is, you know, great, or, you know, oh, he's in the pound for pound discussion and whatnot, and they'll start to decline. But that decline is just, there's no kind of peaks during that decline. It's just a one-way road downwards. Do you know what I mean? Until they get to a point where people are saying, why is he still fighting? He shouldn't be fighting. Why is he still fighting? Like BJ Penn, for example. And I hate that part of the career of fighters that I like and I respect. And I'm enjoying this kind of period of Jose Aldo's career because he's still in the conversation. He's still a top 5, and he's still a top 5 bantamweight. Now, I know within that there are some real killers, and it'll probably be very difficult for Jose Aldo to win that title. But at the same time, he's beating some real competitors. And yeah, I just like the fact that he's getting the congratulations, the adulation I feel like his career deserves at this stage, man. Because again, I saw on social media, like, someone posted things you love to see, and it was 2 fighters coming up to Jose Aldo kind of with a subtitle saying, oh, I really respect you, I'm a massive fan, etc. So for him to have that kind of interaction with his peers and still go out there and put in a performance the way he did on Saturday night to show that he still got it, that's just a nice, heartwarming story, and you don't get many of them in combat sports. So the ones that you do get, you gotta stop and pay attention and smile. Vicente Luque defeats Michael Chiesa in the first round submission. Now I've kind of been quite, how should I say this? I didn't think I've never really how should I say this without being rude? Look, Michael Chiesa is a guy, right, that his skill set can take him to a certain level. But in a funny sort of way, where I was talking about Jose Aldo being from a generation in the past but still being able to compete at this level, Michael Chiesa, he's almost like a throwback fighter, because you know what he wants to do, but he isn't at the level of a Khabib, and who is, but do you know what I mean? Like, he's not like a Khabib where even though you know what he wants to do, there's not really much you can do about it. Where Michael Chiesa, you know what he wants to do. He wants to close the distance, he wants to get you to the ground, and he wants to take your back. But the skills that he's got to enable him to close the distance, they need work, right? And the fact that he had Luque in the position where you would say to yourself, this is gonna go Michael Chiesa's way. Like, don't get me wrong, this wasn't just a terrible performance from Michael Chiesa, but he 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 almost snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in that fight, because he had the position. I mean, obviously he didn't have it fully locked in, but he was on the verge of being able to have his legs wrapped around the waist of Vicente Luque and having those arms sunken in on his neck, around his throat, to get that choke going. And he was unable to capitalize on it. And I don't know, man. I can't really fault him too much, because, like I said, he managed to get himself into that dominant position. But I've never been convinced that Michael Chiesa is a guy that is going to be a problem when it comes to challenging for the title. And this performance didn't convince me otherwise. Vicente Luque, on the other hand, he's an interesting one, right? Because obviously he hasn't really he's a guy that was kind of operating at a kind of top 10, top 15 type level over the last few years. You know, he's had his wins, he's had his losses. But now, like, so I'm just looking at his page now. He's been in the organization since 2015, you know. But he's starting to kind of put some kind of, he's got some momentum now, because obviously he had the Nico Price fight, which was one that everyone was looking forward to, because we just knew that they was just going to go at it. But then after that, Randy Brown, and it felt like Randy Brown was someone that they were trying to build off of Luque, but Luque weren't having it. Then obviously Tyrone Woodley, and now Michael Chiesa. So he's solidified himself as a top 10 in the division. But what's working in his favor is the fact that Tyrone Woodley has beaten so many people around him, and Luque would basically, did I just say Tyrone Woodley? I was meant to say Kamaru Usman. I can't remember, but anyway, yeah. So what's working in his favor is Kamaru Usman's beaten everyone else around him, and if I'm not mistaken, they've never fought each other. So he's a new, fresh opponent, right? But also, just because he's beaten Michael Chiesa, Tyrone Woodley, and Randy Brown, to me, that obviously isn't enough to warrant a title shot. So he's got to beat one or two new faces. But obviously, in the meantime, you've got Kamaru Usman fighting Kobe Covington, and then you'd assume maybe Leon Edwards. I don't know, but it's not like Usman is hungry for opponents at the moment. So if Luque picks his next opponent correctly, or picks his next opponent that has enough of a profile in the division, and that victory looks impressive enough, he might be able to work himself into a position to get a title shot. But yeah, so those are really the only kind of fights that I kind of paid any interest in. I haven't even watched a lot of the fights on the card itself. But yeah, I don't even know if you guys can hear me properly, because obviously I usually have this, this mic here, but I smashed my phone a while back, and that kind of has contributed to me being just not as active, because I'm using an older phone, and for some reason that mic doesn't work with this phone. I probably just need to update my phone, update the software on it. But that's a boring story to be telling you guys. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to like this video. Share it with a friend if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow the links in my description for if you want to listen to this just in audio. But just subscribe to my podcast anyway, just so I can get the subs up, That's actually quite funny, because like I was saying, I haven't made that many videos recently, but 20 subs without making a single video over the last week, which is a lot for me. Makes me think, should I even bother? Because that residual income. Hey guys, would you like to make some residual income? You need another revenue stream. Those guys on Instagram and stuff that try and sell you like, oh, do you want to be a trader? Do you want a secondary income, residual income? That's what I'm getting with my fucking subs, residual income. But yeah, anyway, listen, comment, like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. But yeah, subscribe is the main one, man. subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys next time.